Did you know the Old Testament character Jonah struggled with his mental health? God called Jonah to go to the big city of Nineveh to tell them to repent and turn to God. But Jonah believed the Ninevites were his enemies and he doesn't want to go. So instead of being obedient to God and go to Nineveh, he boards a ship in the opposite direction to the city of Tarshish. And a raging sea storm hits while he's on the ship, and the crew throws Jonah overboard because he was the problem. He's then swallowed by a big fish, probably a massive whale of some kind, and he's in the belly of this whale for 3 days. And that obviously got Jonah's attention, and he repents to God for his disobedience, and the fish spits him up on dry land. He ends up making the 500-mile trip to Nineveh to get them to repent, and a great revival breaks out. But rather than being excited and grateful to God, Jonah actually pouts, and he's displeased that the Ninevites repented. He felt that they did not deserve God's mercy. Now, this is a wild story, right? But let's look at Jonah chapter 4, verses 1 through 4. It starts off with Jonah being displeased that the Ninevites repented. But it displeased Jonah exceedingly, and he was angry. And he prayed to the Lord and said, O Lord, is not this what I said when I was yet in my country? That is why I made haste to flee to Tarshish, for I knew that you were a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love, and relenting from disaster. Therefore now, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And the Lord said to him, Do you do well to be angry? So what was the state of Jonah's mental health here? Well, not good, right? He's angry. And what's beneath that anger? Probably his own self-righteousness, maybe what he believes is injustice. He's feeling despair, even suicidal. He prayed that he might die. Please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And if we kept reading to verse 8, we'd see that he asked God if he could die a second time. And in verse 9, he says that he's angry enough to die. And referring to this story, the anxious faith team said, maybe you haven't felt quite so angry as Jonah, but we've likely all reached a point in our lives where giving up felt easier than facing challenges, especially when we felt as though God was being unfair. We don't hear what happens to Jonah after his conversation with God. Maybe he repents of his anger and is able to celebrate that God is a God of second chances, or maybe he chooses to stay bitter and wrapped up in his own self-righteousness. We hope it's the former. When we face disappointment or we struggle with feeling like things aren't fair, how do we respond? Do we ask God to give us his heart to help us see things through his eyes? Because that is certainly the better way to respond.